think that's part of the reason that she's so into you. Hello friends, I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing well. I am dusty because this place is a mess. Because I did the project this weekend and guess what? The video's not done. It needs edited and I just didn't have time this weekend to get it finished because of soccer. Soccer and Mother's Day and all the things that go along with it. But to give you an idea of what I did, I'll put a picture here on the screen. This is my mother's craft company. She does crafting and shows and stuff, and so I was originally just going to do like a sign that just said the shed or something, and then I realized last week that it's Mother's Day on Sunday and this video is for Sunday, so I should probably do something for Mom, and she's been asking me for quite a while to do a product sign for her, so that's what happened, and it was fun. It was a really fun project, and I got it all done on Saturday and it turned out beautiful. But that's not what I intended to talk about today. On Friday, I talked a little bit about programming, I think that was Friday. I don't know. Friday was kind of a loss mentally. And I know some of you are software developers, and I wanted to talk a little bit about why I do things the way I do. And I know that I mentioned on Friday that I still have this like ancient view of how programming works, because I'm ancient, and I learned programming I started in the 80s. And I look at it like this. There are tools that you can use to do a job, and then there are power tools that you can use to do that job faster, and then there are automatic machines that do it for you. And there's a lot of benefits to all three of those things. For me, and for most of the software I've ever seen that's in production, the vast majority doesn't need anything more than a few little hand tools. But we choose to use these bloated, overblown, those two words are practically the same, frameworks, because that's the cool new thing to do. And I don't do that. And the reason is, I'm not going to go take a course to be a master oil painter so that I can paint my bathroom, right? Like, there's no point in that. It's just a waste of energy. If what I need to do, if I need to write a piece of software that does a basic function, takes some input from a user and checks a database and returns some output, do I really need to bother to learn a whole new framework that will impact the life cycle of my application? Because not only do I have to learn the framework to build the framework, but once the framework's in place and once my application's in place, I have to keep the updates to the framework live forever, or else my whole thing breaks. Or if I write it in just a basic language, there's much less chance that a future publication of that language is going to completely bork my software. It happens. It happens often. We all go through it. I've used Google OAuth before. Well, before they had OAuth, they had, I don't know what it was called, and then they stopped supporting it, and I had to rewrite code that, But in reality, say I'm writing in PHP, the code that I wrote in PHP in the 90s is still valid PHP code. It can still run just fine today, and I haven't had to do a whole lot. Sure, new libraries come along that are more secure or more fancy, and I can do better things, but in reality, I can still run code that I wrote in the 90s just fine today. With a framework, that's not always possible, especially with how many are out there. There are thousands, and everybody's writing their own because they want to be special, and then it picks up a couple of developers for a few years, and then it goes to the wayside, and then nobody's supporting it anymore, and now the underlying language, whether it's PHP or Perl or whatever the heck you happen to be writing in, goes away or changes, and now the library's broke and you have to go fix it. And it's just like, it doesn't make sense to me to compile on complexity under the guise of simplicity. You're just lying to yourself if you think that writing in a framework is easier than some other way of doing it. It's really not, for the vast majority of software. If you're an enterprise level programmer and you're doing some massive user-based applications, sure, you're going to have to do whatever management tells you to do. But for the most of us, for the large majority of us, it's just not worth the effort. It really isn't. And that's why I stick to just writing my own functions, writing my own libraries, just basic stuff, Is it the wrong way of thinking? Maybe in your mind, but no. I can spin up a new application in a matter of hours as opposed to maybe days sometimes, especially if it's a new framework that I have to go learn. And let's be honest, everybody's favorite framework changes every 6 months. You know, I remember when Angular was popular, and now everybody's moving to Vue, and I don't have time for that. I want to just write software. And that doesn't mean I don't keep up with it. I know the basics of all the frameworks that are out there. I keep tabs on Hacker News, and I know what's going on in the industry, so that if I ever get asked to support something that was written in some weird way, like a lot of the stuff that I work on, I can dive into it. And it works for me. You know, we're using Laravel on a lot of our applications right now, and I have bothered to learn how to do things the Laravel way. Not always. If you dig through my code, you will find some just raw PHP and maybe even some raw SQL that I've thrown in there because I couldn't figure out how to write it in Eloquent or whatever. But for the most part, I have done things the Laravel way, and I've enjoyed it. Did I need to? No. But I'm supporting apps that somebody else wrote, so I had to learn it. I don't think these applications needed it in the first place, but it is what it is, and I'm happy to stick with it. Maybe I'll get something out of it, and maybe someday I will be working on a large enterprise app that needs it, but who knows. But right now, I'm just going to write stuff in PHP and move on. It's what we know. Why do we keep fighting it? That's what I got. Hope that helps somebody understand a little bit about why I do things the way I do. Maybe make you think about why you do things the way you do. Oh, and by the way, I hate object-oriented programming. Thank you for being here. I'll see you tomorrow.
Hey, Doc, wait! I want to ask you something.
Today's random fact comes from myhumblekitchen.com. What cut of meat is minute steak? It's not meat. Minute steak is cut from the sirloin or round steak and pounded very thin, usually a 1/4 inch thick, and is tender from the pounding. Since it's been pounded, this is a lot of pounding, it can be cooked quickly. Perfect for this busy time of year.